Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and today on the program, via Zoom, because we're still working from the home office, I have a great guest. She is a world-renowned burlesque performer and content creator. Here's my Zoom interview with Michelle Lamore. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We are both sheltering in place on either coasts here, so hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties. We mentioned your project, Quarantine Cabaret, on a previous show, so people hopefully know about it a little bit if they haven't caught it. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but first I want to talk to you about you and kind of see how you got started in showbiz. You're a burlesque performer, so that's a little bit different than we usually have, like filmmakers and actors and people in that side of the business. But this is independent entertainment. That's what we call it. And you're definitely an independent entertainer. So how did you get started? What is your origin story, so to speak?
Yeah, it's funny you keep saying the word independent. So when I was a kid, one of the memories that stands out for me the most is when I was standing with my dad in church, and I was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something, and he says, well, she's very independent. And just the way he said it, I knew that it was bad, but I didn't know what independent meant. And so I remember asking him later as we left the group of people, what does independent mean? And he's like, well, it just means you like to do things your own way. And I thought, well, what's so wrong with that? So that's like deep into my origin story of independence. But getting to burlesque, I started doing burlesque about 17 years ago now. And I started doing it after college. I went to U of I in Champaign, and I studied finance. And I was incredibly bored and not really seeing myself at the desk every day. I tried to be normal. I tried to get a real job, but that just wasn't doing it for me. So I had studied dance. I had been studying dance since I was 15, which is relatively late for a girl to start studying, but I was smitten, completely obsessed with it, and that's what I wanted to do. So when the opportunity came around for me to choreograph and dance in a burlesque show, I just said yes, without knowing anything about it. So when I heard the music, though, I heard the classic bump and grind music. I thought, oh, yeah, this is what I've been doing in my bedroom alone all through high school. So I feel like for some reason, this is where I'm meant to be.
I mean, that's something to kind of fall into, but it's not like if you came up from a traditional dance back, if you've taken jazz and ballet and tap, which most of the time doesn't involve taking your clothes off, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So what was it about this type of performing that you went, oh, that's what I'm going to do? Because this is your career, this is what you do for a living. It's not a hobby. It's this is your life basically.
Yeah.
How do you get to that point?
Yeah, lots of twists and turns, I'll tell you what. After I graduated from college, I went back into dance, regular, dance, and I was teaching dance and doing burlesque at night after I was done with classes and doing shows in Chicago. And I ended up getting some attention because there wasn't anything going on in Chicago at the time. And I got some attention for it. And then the mothers of the kids saw some of the articles and didn't necessarily like what Miss Michelle was up to after hours. So I stopped teaching dance and then just went full on into burlesque and just kind of made it up as I went along. So I produced shows with my husband, and I started teaching classes at a like a lingerie sex store in Chicago. And that's how I started teaching classes. And it wasn't hard for me to teach classes because I was already teaching regular dance. So I just had to kind of figure out like, what are the ins and outs, so to speak, of burlesque, and how do I really break down what this art form is. So it was kind of a natural evolution, I guess.
You also, one of the reasons that we're talking to you now is because of projects like Quarantine Cabaret, but you use media a lot. Like you put out a lot of video, and, you know, I think for people who do this do what you do, you have a greater media exposure probably than some people. And you use media in a unique way. So I wanted to kind of ask you, like, how you came to do that, like using Vimeo, using Patreon, and kind of like, was this just a natural evolution? Was this a big awakening where you said, oh, I have to do this, or it's a survival technique? Like, how does that fit into your career?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you have that perception of me because I do just see it as like an extension of what I need to do. And also it was also just another outlet for me. I think the social media outlets that I have available to me are not kind to the art that I do. And, you know, I'm not the only one. There's many other women in the arts who struggle with social media. And, you know, I can't actually show what it is that I do on Instagram or Facebook. I have to be very careful. And I've been disabled on Instagram and shadow banned, and I've been banned on YouTube. So I can't post anything on YouTube, and it just happened. There was no warning. They didn't even say why I was banned, but just everything that I put up is gone. So it's like I have no control over my artistic output on that level, and which is a big level. I mean, YouTube is a verb. It's not a thing. It's a verb. And so that whole outlet is completely unavailable to me, which is insanely frustrating. So things like Patreon and Vimeo are good for me because I can do what I actually do. And Patreon's really great because I can experiment, and I don't have to stick within the guidelines of burlesque. And I feel like even within burlesque, I don't stick within those guidelines, but still, you know, I can expand more into being the most naked woman.
And that's the most naked woman. That's how you bill yourself. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Follow-up questions to that, because I've wondered about this nickname. Now, there is nudity in what you do, but is that also a metaphorical nakedness? Is it how you kind of expose yourself to an audience, or how you've opened up to an audience?
Yeah, so it's definitely twofold. I mean, it definitely refers to my level of undress, but it also refers to my desire to be authentic and vulnerable on stage. And that has always been very important to me, even from the very beginning. I never wanted to be a character. I never wanted to present something that I wasn't. So even though all my acts are very different, they're all different pieces of me and how I've grown throughout the years.
I think the first time I saw you perform, you were in New York at a club that doesn't exist anymore.
Was it Coria's?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. This was a long time ago. And
very long time.
You know, and I think I saw you do the Snow White routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, you since evolved then. And I think that's one of the keys to your success is how creative you are, in terms of not, you know, because it's like, well, how many different ways can you do this sort of thing? And you've been very innovative in that way.
Yeah, it's important to me to be innovative. It's an art form with so much history, and yes, we can all take off our clothes. Absolutely. It's a very DIY kind of art form, but I like to figure out all the different kinds of ways I could take off a shirt.
What also interests me about burlesque is the community of it, because there is a real club kind of thing. Like there's people who do this, and they all. I don't know how competitive it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do kind of perceive it as not every man for himself or every woman for herself kind of community. And that's kind of what I saw with Quarantine Cabaret, because you were able to put this project together with all these different performers, and it was like that, and you had a show. And I can only say, I can only assume that you did that quickly because you knew all these people, and you had performed with them before, and you must have had some sense of a community there that you could put this out. Am I correct in that assumption?
Well, yes. I mean, there's definitely a big community, and I'm very lucky to have a lot of friends within it and all over the world. So that's really special. But I'm not going to romanticize it and say that everyone is super supportive and it's all the same. You know, it's not. I mean, people are competitive. There are some like really nasty things that go down. I think it's just like any other industry. I mean, it's showbiz, you know. But for Quarantine Cabaret, really the idea happened, I think it was March 16th, and we put out 2 shows on March 20th. So that's a really fast turnaround. So I shot out a bunch of emails. Hey, do you want to do this crazy thing? This is weird. I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. I'm going to host a show from my living room. Do you want to tape your dance in your kitchen? Like, let's do a show. So that's what happened with Quarantine Cabaret. And I'm actually having so much fun with it. I love it.
Talk a little bit more about that project, because for people who haven't seen it, so you're like the MC of this web series in a sense, and you also perform in it. Mm-hmm. But kind of talk about the other people involved and the other types of acts, and kind of if you had to give me like a Hollywood log line for it, what would that be?
Oh, the log line would be top tier talent from all over the world, from our living room to yours. So we have music, musicians, magicians, contortion acts, pole dancers, jugglers, burlesque. It's really all over the place. And each show features 3 performers and myself. And it's about 25 minutes every episode. So it's totally binge-worthy.
And you guys shoot everything vertically, right?
Yeah, it's a great phone show. I mean, it's not really a style that we really do very often, but we're trying to make things up as we go, and thought maybe strategically vertically might be the best way to go, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems to be working.
And the types of stuff you're doing, do you feel like it's more traditional in terms of burlesque, or is it more innovative? Is it a mix of all the above?
Yeah, I mean, the show really runs the gamut. We have definitely a lot of crazy comedic performance art type of acts. I will point to your fellow New Yorker, Peekaboo Point, on that. She does a hysterical act featuring tons of rolls of toilet paper, and so I wouldn't call that traditional necessarily, but yeah, it is traditional in the sense that it's pasties and G-string, I guess, when the burlesque is concerned. But we are going to be releasing a Quarantine Cabaret uncensored version, and that is going to be coming out in May. So we're working on that now and putting all that together, but that's going to be not free to watch. It's going to be a paid show.
And how are you setting that up? Through your Patreon?
No, we're going to do it password protected on Vimeo, and you're going to have to buy a ticket to get the video link and the password. And it is going to be, no pasties, no G-string, that sort of thing. And it'll be shot horizontally.
So we get to see the full show.
Yeah.
I saw what you guys were doing. I picked up on it right away because I thought, oh, this is a brilliant idea. Like it's one of those ideas that is so simple, and often simple. We say a lot of times in film that simple does not equal easy. But I thought this is just a perfect, simple idea that is something that people could put together, and fairly quickly, kind of thing. Because you guys turned it around so fast. And, you're also responding to a marketplace of, you do live events, and that's something we can't do now. So like, well, what are you going to do? You have to figure out how to way to bring the experience to people. So I just thought that was great. And I hope that, people,
right.
I hope people in more traditional style media can learn a lesson from that, and learn how to kind of deal with this, roll with the punches, so to speak.
I think artists in general are very good at adapting to any situation. So we lost all of our jobs in a matter of hours. So, okay, what are we going to do with this? And other performers, of course, are out of work. And, when we initially thought of this idea, we thought, well, maybe we'll charge $5 a view or whatever. And then the more things progressed and how quickly things were progressing, I wanted to make it a free show because it's not about the money. People can tip. They can tip with Venmo and PayPal. And, I encourage that because I share it with all the performers in the episodes. But I didn't want to make it cost prohibitive to people. I wanted people who are having a bad day to be able to tune in to Quarantine Cabaret and just feel a little bit of normalcy and feel happy and laugh and get inspired, feel a little sexy. So it's a lot more to me than just trying to make some money, even though I need it and it's important, but so is the other stuff.
For a lot of other performers and people, media creators as well, might be in this type of predicament. I mean, do you have, you've only been doing this for a little while, but do you have any advice that you would give any other creators out there or performers like yourself who are kind of looking to get their art to the masses when they can't bring them to a theater or to the cinema?
Yeah, I always live by the motto that there's opportunity in obstacles. It's kind of how I've lived my whole life. And so I'm very used to thinking this way. And like I said, being an artist and maybe especially a burlesque performer, you encounter so many different scenarios and you have to think very quickly and you have to figure out how to make it work. Not only as a performer, but especially as a producer. So I think it is best in these situations to see these obstacles as an opportunity that maybe you just don't see yet. So just think harder.
I think that's great advice. It's definitely something we have to do all the time because, especially as independent artists and people, I'm using Zoom. I hate the video quality but it's a tool that allows me to talk to you, who I probably wouldn't get to come to Brooklyn anytime soon, so I'm taking advantage of it. And I think we all have to kind of adapt like that. So now we do have some time left, and I broached this with you before we started rolling, but I wanted to see, because as I mentioned in my last episode, because of the passing of James Lipton, who headed up the program inside the Actors Studio, he did this wonderful questionnaire, which he borrowed from Bernard Pivot, and who did it for a couple of shows. Of course, he did them in French. And one was called Apostrophe, and I can't pronounce the other one because my French is terrible. But it's a great questionnaire. And I wanted to do it briefly with you. And there's no pressure or anything, but I think it would be fun. So,
okay,
go from the top, and we'll do this as spontaneous as a word association, sort of a Freudian word association is how I see it.
Okay.
Okay, so Michelle, what is your favorite word?
Oh. Okay, it's like, I don't know. I want to say like pussy or cunt. I want to say it, and so I'm saying it.
There is a question later for what is your favorite curse word.
Oh, okay.
But you sort of answered that one first, but do you have a favorite word other than that one?
I mean, the word that's coming to mind now is awkward. I like that the word awkward actually looks awkward as it's spelled.
Okay, we'll go with that. All right,
yeah,
so
why not?
So
I think I'm blushing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With this picture, we can hardly tell. Because by the end of it, we'll both look like a mosaic. So the next question, and I'm almost afraid to ask, what sound or noise do you love?
Okay, I know what you think I'm going to say, but I'm not going to say that. I really like the sound. I really like the sound of bare feet walking on a wood floor.
Great. So the converse of that is the next question. What is the sound or noise that you hate?
People eating, anybody eating. I hate it. I hate it. It's
Good.
Gross. I have to turn music on for every meal. I can't do it. That's a true story.
So the next one is, and this is creatively speaking, what turns you on? What gets your thinking going? What kind of stirs the creative juices, kind of thing?
I mean, there's so much, but I think I would say talent in general. When I see someone who's very good at what they're doing and they're in their element, that turns me on in every way. And
the opposite, what would turn you off?
Ignorance.
I'm not going to make any commentary about the world today.
Yeah.
Okay. And
yeah.
then this next question you answered already, but maybe you have a different answer. What is your favorite curse word?
Okay, fuck is my favorite curse word, but I'm going to go back because I don't feel like pussy and cunt are curse words. They're like really lovely words. So I'm gonna take those back. Okay.
Not judging the word, but this does air on television. So that's where that's my criteria. Say it again.
Oh. Should I not have said that? Is that bad?
No, it's fine. And it's not like we're not on live. This is an NBC, which is really good. So the final question is, if God exists, what would you like to hear God say when you enter the pearly gates?
Nailed it. No, I don't know.
No, that's pretty good. Nailed it is pretty good. And that's all I got for you. But thank you so much for people who are interested in seeing and knowing more about you or Quarantine Cabaret. Where can they find you on the web?
You can find me on Instagram at Michelle Amour or at quarantine.cabaret. Or my website is michelleamour.com and quarantine-cabaret.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's all we got for you today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including our movie reviews, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. And be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Michelle Amour. And for Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.